news on YourIowa.com is brought to you by the Commission on U.S. Territories, striving for equal representation around the globe, and by Keep Iowa First, committed to keeping the Iowa caucuses the first in the nation contest in selecting the presidency of the United States. And now, here's your host, Brent Roske.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. We made it through another week. Congratulate yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. We made it through another week. It is February 12th, 2021. Yesterday, the West Des Moines Chamber of Commerce was nice enough. They ran an email about this program. We got a lot of new guests coming up. Because of that email, we have some new Iowa business leaders. We have building people who build houses, realtors, folks who work in healthcare. So thank you to the West Des Moines Chamber of Commerce. That was a very effective outreach, so we appreciate that. Monday's show, folks, President's Day. We have the 5-season producer and wrote many episodes of the show The West Wing. Eli Addy is going to be on the program. You see a picture of him there with former Vice President Al Gore. He was actually a speechwriter for Al Gore way back when he was a young pup. And then the photo below that, that's when West Wing, when he was on the program. You see him there with Oscar winner Allison Janney, Mayor McCormick, Bradley Whitford. He is going to be on a special episode Monday, along with former State Representative Karen Derry, to talk about Iowa politics. End of next week, Gina Belafonte, there she is with her dad, Harry Belafonte. I've known Gina for several years now. She's going to be on the program talking about their organization. It's called Sankofa.org. Just my small part to honor Black History Month there. And as well, next week, we've got State Representative Ross Wilburn. Boy, he's having a heck of a year. Just elected to be the chair of the Iowa Democratic Party. And of course, there he is with our Vice President, Kamala Harris. They're both having an amazing year. But next week, Mr. Wilburn will be on this program. Just some quick news. You don't expect to see this from the BBC. We are disappointed that the Chinese authorities have decided to take this course of action. What are they talking about? Well, the Chinese broadcasting company has decided to no longer broadcast the BBC in China. They're saying this is actually a retaliation for British media not broadcasting China Global Television in the United Kingdom. So very interesting things going on there with major countries deciding not to broadcast each other's news. And Australia has decided that their Australian Open sadly will go without fans this summer. They're saying that 13 new cases have been tied to coronavirus in just the last day from a hotel in Melbourne. And these cases were identified in the previous 24 hours. And so they're saying this hyper-infectious variant is what they're calling it, is moving at hyperspeed. And they're saying they need to do this to enact strict lockdown so it doesn't get out of hand. They're saying that this new variant is smarter, faster, and more infectious. So we wish Australia all the best. And of course, we encourage everyone to be as safe as you can in these trying times. But now, boy, do we have a special treat for you folks. All the way from Africa, here she is, Bonnie Louise Brown. How are you? Oh, do we just lose you? Folks, you saw her there for us. Oh, there she. Are you there? Bonnie, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can. It's just a little bit slow.
Well, I love it. So where are you right now in the planet?
So I'm actually in Kokotomi, Benin, West Africa.
West Africa. And how long have you been there? You're seeing some family right now. I'm going to pull up. I've got some photographs from your Facebook page here. It looks like you're just having the trip of a lifetime.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, so I've actually, today is day 26 that I've been here. So I should be here for another week or so, and then I'll be heading back.
So, is the purpose of your trip just fun? I saw you were giving some speeches over there, and you went to see this statue. Why don't you tell us about this statue and what you're doing over there in West Africa?
Yeah, so actually, we just came here to visit family, but in West Africa, they take African American history very seriously and Black History Month. And so this statue is actually located in Abomey, Benin, and it's about 2 hours north from where I am now. And that entire city is actually the site where, so before slavery began and the Europeans came over to West Africa to capture people and take them into slavery, they were bribing the kings in various West African countries with various like European products and saying like, hey, if we give you these items, you can give us this amount of people. And at first, this king who's you see in the statue there agreed, and so they started taking people into slavery. And then when he realized it was wrong, the reason the statue's like this, where he has his hand up, is because he told the Europeans, you're no longer taking my people, and I'm not going to accept any more bribes from you. And so when he did that, the Europeans actually tried to assassinate him. They plotted an assassination attempt against him, and it failed. So when they realized they could no longer take with the king's permission, they came specifically to that place in Abomey. And there was a battle that was between Africans and Europeans, and there was a lot of blood that was shed right there on that land. And so just to honor the king for taking a stand later on in slavery and saying, you're not going to take any more of my people, they built this statue in his honor.
That is fantastic. And that is a part of history that I was not aware of. So thank you for sharing that. Were you familiar with that story before you went over?
Yes, because this is my third trip to Benin, actually. I've been to Ghana before, I've been to Togo, and this is the first time I've gone to the neighboring country of Nigeria, because all over West Africa, they have African American history museums, different stories about what happened during the slavery times in West Africa. And so I've been here, and I've only visited that Abomey site one time before, and that was 6 years ago. So I haven't been there in 6 years. And this was actually my son's first time visiting the statue. So he's 10 years old now. So I got to bring him with me this time and explain the history to him.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I see a couple of these other photographs. It looks like you're on motorcycles, and it looks like maybe traffic laws are a little looser there than they are here. Look at this, folks. You just got 3 and 4 deep, and I think you're on a motorcycle there when you took the photo, yeah?
Yes, that's my son there in that photo on the motorcycle. Absolutely. So obviously it's very different here. The laws, they don't really have too much laws in regards to traffic. Sometimes you can see up to 5 people on a motorbike. It's just very different here. So we just go along with what the locals do while we're here.
So you extended your stay. This just looks like it's the trip of a lifetime here. What have some of the highlights been? You're just learning tons about history. You're sharing it with your son. But what are some of the other highlights of the trip so far?
Oh, absolutely. So I was able to give a speech on February 1st, which is the opening day of Black History Month at one of the schools here. All of the schools across Benin really take African American history and Black History Month seriously. They do plays to reenact what happened during the 1850s, what happened during the 1700s, what even happened once slaves got to the United States, and what even happened when voting rights became available, and the struggle that African Americans had with voting. So my son actually got to join one of the plays and reenact what happened in 1850. And then I got to give a speech on Black history. And what I was really surprised is that a lot of people didn't know who Emmett Till was here, even some of the teachers. So I went ahead and told Emmett Till's story to the school. And then at the end of my speech, we all held hands, and I named off some of the most recent victims of police brutality, or even brutality by just regular citizens in the United States. And so I named off each of their names and gave a moment of silence at the school. And so there's they tend to really focus on some of like the common names that we're used to, like Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, things of that nature for Black history. So it was I just thought it was awesome that I was able to tell them more about Black history and go deeper into it and talk to them about some of the other names that we're familiar with more in the United States.
So tell folks about, you were born and raised in Iowa. You went to Drake University. Tell folks,
yeah.
I mean, what we had on Al Womble just a couple days ago, the chair of the Iowa Black Caucus, and we talked about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we talked about. Sadly, on Sunday, their meeting was cut short. Racist thugs hacked in. They shouted horrible things, and then U.S. Congresswoman Judy Beatty was in the meeting, and sadly they had to cut it short. So Mr. Womble and I talked about that for the whole episode. My question to you is, what is the experience like for you being in Africa as opposed to being here in Iowa? People don't think of Iowa being necessarily difficult for folks of color, but the statistics and stories I'm told say differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and I did see Al Womble's post, and I'm really sorry that happened with the Black Caucus meeting. I know I reshared it to my Facebook status as well, and so that's really terrible, and it should never happen. There's just so much difference. When I come here, I feel more free. In West Africa, stared at as much. I feel like I can really be myself. I can walk into establishments. Nobody's going to look at me. I'm not targeted by the police over here. In Iowa, or even in the United States in general, there was a lot of times I may walk into somewhere like a restaurant. A lot of people might stare. I would get stopped by the police. I just have had a lot of things happen in Iowa. And so I don't think a lot of people are aware because Iowa is a predominantly white state. So a lot of people who are Caucasian who live in the state of Iowa aren't experiencing what African Americans are experiencing in the state because they are privileged. And so they don't see what we're going through. But there are definitely a lot of things that we experience. And I feel like we just have to get used to it, and we've just internalized it, and we're just used to it so much that we just ignore it when it happens, or try to just, it just happens so much that we're like conditioned to it. And it's you don't realize it until you go somewhere else and you realize that this is no longer happening, or you don't have to constantly think about this. And so it's definitely different when you're traveling to other countries and you realize how different things really are, and how much anxiety is actually taken off your chest versus when you're in the United States.
It sounds almost like you really feel a real sense of freedom over there.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It sounds, the way you're describing it, that you're almost feeling a genuine sense of freedom when you visit back there.
For some reason, it's muted.
Oh, did I lose you?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine, but you can't hear me right now, huh?
Let's see here.
Bummer. Okay. We were doing so good there for just a while.
I'm so sorry, Brent. I can't hear you.
That's okay. That's okay. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to say goodbye. We're going to wave you out. And it was just our pleasure. I'm going to go to full screen here. Bonnie, if you can hear me, just say so. But we will have you. We'll pick up the interview part of this at a later time. So grateful to Bonnie Brown to coming with us all the way from West Africa today. And, folks, it's just amazing that it worked as well as it did. So we will be chatting with her more next week. We'll have her on the show again.
Can you hear me?
But just a fantastic, it's just so fun to do this show and be able to do that. I just think that's fantastic. And again, I've owned, 12 motorcycles in my life. So to see him just zipping around like that, I think it's the neatest thing. Thank you, Ms. Brown, for sharing this important part of Black history with us. This is Black History Month. It is the shortest month. It is the coldest month. So let's not just end it here in February. Let's have Black history shared all around the year. This is Deborah Willis's book, The Black Civil War Soldier. Miss Willis was on Monday's program. And this is her brand new book. I bought a copy. Happy to have it. If you missed that interview, please take a look. It's posted here on the site, and you get amazing things. You know, people don't think about it, folks. You don't think about that there were literally folks being bought and sold in this country. Here it is, men of color to arms, now or never. The advertising to me is an access point. I spent 17 years in Los Angeles in advertising. I still direct commercials, etc. But to see advertising that describes different human beings, different attributes of different human beings as a way to sell them, that to me was an access, one of the access points to the incredible cruelty that was brought on other humans, other Americans in this country. And so that's why it's important to talk about this, and it's important to share these stories. And Miss Brown coming to us live from Africa on, there she is teaching her son about many important things. The king who fought back against the Europeans trying to steal folks into slavery. So valuable, so important. So thank you again. Next week, my friend Stephen Adams produced this film, Rodney King, directed by Spike Lee. Mr. Adams will be on this program talking about that project and others. Dr. Franz Whitfield will be joining us talking about, what does Black History Month mean? Does it do enough? How does it bring us together? How does it show areas that we still have to work on? Folks, all that, so much more. And again, Monday, one last pitch for our show with Eli Addy. He was a producer on 5 seasons of The West Wing, used to write speeches for Vice President Al Gore, and then he literally cold called Aaron Sorkin. He tells the story in the interview. We're going to talk about that, but all kinds of fun stuff. And if you missed last week, can't even believe it's been a week already, but that's Saul Lieberman. He works over there at the Institute for Political Innovation. We talk about Final Five voting in that. You can watch the interview. I'm going to play that video real quick. I was hoping to chat with Miss Brown for a little while longer, so we've got some time here. So I'm going to play the video for Final Five voting. Now, what are we talking about? Some of you might know I ran for Congress. I ran for Congress out in California, and they called it, at the time, they called it the jungle primary. Top 2 voting. What that was our primary. When I ran, it was just me and the sitting member of Congress. So it was just the 2 of us. And then slowly other candidates came in, and then that member of Congress retired. And when that person retired, a whole bunch of other candidates come in. And I think the final count was 16 of us that actually did the work and got our name on a ballot. And I want to say a quick shout out to had a candidate reach out to be on this program, and I'll tell him what I'll tell you folks right now, is that all candidates are welcome to be on this program as long as you've done your paperwork. And there's legal reasons why that's important, but it also, folks, there's a lot, especially celebrities, and I'm going to give them a hit right now in not a nice way. Celebrities have a way of getting upset about something on the news, and they tweet about it, and then they say, you know what, I'm just going to run for office. And some journalists, members of the media, they clamor after that. Oh, let's do an interview with them. Oh, such and such, you're thinking about running. And Warren Beatty was notorious for this. If the Democrats don't put up somebody, I'm going to run for president, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And he never did, folks. It was just talk. Senator George McGovern was the nominee for president, and we were supposed to film with him for my film Chasing the Hill down in St. Augustine, Florida. And sadly, I got to speak with Mr. McGovern many times, but we couldn't get the scheduling ready before, sadly, he passed away. But he told a story of Warren Beatty just being around on that campaign, and I'm going to get involved someday. And now, what do you know? I mean, Warren Beatty just counts his money, and he gets upset, and he tweets things, or I don't even think he's on Twitter. But if you're a candidate and you've done your paperwork, and for instance, in Iowa here, it's the Iowa Ethics Board has to deem you an official candidate. That means your bank accounts are done right. That means your legal notices are done right. And all that is designed for many things, to protect voters, to protect the process. And we can have a separate conversation as to, how that folds into a democracy and hurdles to balloting. Saul and I actually talk about that in the interview that's posted, that a lot of that, you could say that it's, onerous and keeps people from running, which I don't like. I like people running. But if you filled out your paperwork, all candidates are welcome on this show. So what is Final Five voting? In California, when I ran, they had just instituted top two voting. So all the 16 candidates that ran, the way it worked in the primary was you could vote for anybody who you wanted. You didn't have to be a registered X, Y, or Z to run or to vote. You didn't have to say I was a member of this party to get that ballot. And folks, don't let us ever forget that the United States Constitution doesn't mention the Democratic Party. It doesn't mention the Republican Party. It actually doesn't mention political parties at all. And we've already had an independent president. His name was George Washington. And when he stepped down from the office, decided not to run again, he actually spoke out against political parties, saying that people would be so concerned about loyalty to the party and climbing the ladder of party power that they would forget that their real duty in government is to simply serve the people, to make Americans' lives better, to get in a room, be paid by the citizens to do so. So what does this do? So in California, what it does is in the primary, everyone went in and they said, yes, I'll vote for this person. What that did, the top two vote getters then went on to the general election. So in that race, if I remember right, it ended up being two Democrats in the race. Is that right? Ted Lieu won, and I can't remember if it was Elon Carr who was running as a Republican. What it actually ends up doing most of the time is bringing more moderate candidates to the fore. You don't get a Marjorie Taylor Greene. You also don't get an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, people on, more of the outer edges of their parties. And when you get to Congress, when you serve in the United States House of Representatives, it's thrilling and exciting to make big splashy headlines, bold statements. And I've supported some very bold ideas and still do. But the fact of the matter is, to actually get legislation passed, the messy work, the hard work is done in the middle. That's where the sausage is made. So Final Five voting is preference-based voting. So when you go in, you just list your 1 through 5 preferences, and that goes on to the general election. Again, it's all about finding more moderate folks to be elected. And at the end of the day, folks, that starts bringing our nation together. It's that simple. If this show has a reason to exist, that's it, is to have us start getting past this hyper-partisanship. We can't look at our political opponents as our enemies. We have to look at them as patriots first. I have exactly one tattoo, and it's the American flag. And that's what I believe in. So I'm going to show Final Five voting. I'm going to show a PSA I directed with the cast of The West Wing for Justice for Vets. And then I'll be back to close it up.
Washington is broken. Over the years, it's the only political statement Americans agree on. Worse yet, we've come to accept it as fact. Newsflash, Washington is not broken. It's doing what it's designed to do. It's polarized. It's gridlocked. It's lost. The solution to revitalizing our democracy by reinstating healthy competition and ensuring accountability of elected officials lies in a combination of top 5 primaries and ranked choice voting. This system of top 5 primaries and ranked choice voting yields several benefits. For starters, it reduces partisanship. Candidates must appeal to the majority of voters in order to be elected. Ranking candidates in order of preference gives people the opportunity to vote for their favorite candidate without fear of helping their least favorite candidate get elected or feeling pressured to vote for the lesser of two evils. It's been shown to reward candidates who run more positive campaigns rather than ones who malign other candidates, because it's important to be people's second, third, and fourth choices too. Here's how it works. With top 5 primaries, all candidates are listed on the same primary ballot. The top 5 vote getters, regardless of their partisan affiliations, advance to the general election. The general election is where ranked choice voting comes into play. The 5 candidates who won the primary election are listed on a general election ballot. Voters can then rank each of those 5 candidates in order of preference. The candidate who achieves the majority of votes, over 50%, is the winner. Unlike our current system where candidates can win the election without having the majority of the votes, if no one gets a majority, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated. Voters who selected that candidate as their first choice now have their second choice counted. This process of elimination and counting the next best candidate continues until one person achieves more than 50% of the total votes, resulting in the candidate with the broadest appeal winning the election. With top 5 primaries and ranked choice voting, every vote counts and every voice is heard.
Folks, I'm going to run a quick PSA right now with the cast of The West Wing for Justice for Vets. And again, if you're interested in that final 5 voting, that book up on the screen, The Politics Industry, is a fantastic book. It talks about using business strategy to influence politics. And it's a fascinating read, so I definitely recommend it.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Most veterans return to our communities as leaders, but everyone's journey home is not the same.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
Without assistance, the downward spiral can be quick and destructive.
It doesn't have to be this way.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Justice for Vets is the only national organization dedicated to the expansion of veterans' treatment courts.
Veterans treatment courts hold our veterans accountable for their actions.
By providing structure, treatment, and mentoring, these courts help our veterans and their families get their lives back on track.
And veterans treatment courts work.
We ask much of our men and women in uniform, and they ask little in return. It is our collective duty to come to their aid when they struggle on the home front. This not only honors their sacrifice, but makes our communities stronger.
A donation to Justice for Vets helps put a veterans treatment court within reach of every veteran in need.
A donation to Justice for Vets keeps veterans in treatment where they belong.
A donation to Justice for Vets shows your commitment to leaving no veteran behind.
A donation to Justice for Vets will help save lives, restore families, and rebuild communities.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs. Thank you.
So, folks, that is our Friday program. Again, there's Bonnie Louise Brown there with her family in Africa. So grateful to her for being on the show. We had a little bit of technical issues there, but we'll have her back on when she's back here in the States. We'll go through a bunch of photos and we'll finish up that interview. But I just think that's incredible that from a little studio here in West Des Moines, Iowa, can be live from literally across the world, almost as far away on this little spinning globe as you can get. So very grateful to YouTube for the technology and to Bonnie for being on the program. Folks, it's Friday. Reach out to someone you know, you love. Maybe you've lost contact. The election is now getting several weeks behind us in the rearview mirror. So let's start to build those bridges back. Let's start to create a stronger country. Let's not be so focused on politics. It's amazing. I'm in my mid-40s now, but my whole life before this, before I was working in politics, I couldn't have really told you who necessarily people were voting for and all that sort of thing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So let's not let marketers or the cottage industry of political consultants take all of our attention. Let's not let them get us all mad at each other. Let's fight for the country. Let's keep in mind that the livelihood of the country is more important than each other's opinions. And, the person who doesn't have any enemies either is a good liar or doesn't have any convictions. I was reminded of that a couple of days ago. So have a lovely weekend. And I hope to see you right back here Monday morning.